Hello, Riven mains and Yasuo mains alike. I am the Nightwing coming at you guys here on Inside Runners talking about the LCK. The LCK power rankings for week 9 going in. This is how I think the standings will pan out. Hopefully, I have been right about a lot. I've been wrong about a lot. It kind of balances out. So, the LCK, unlike some of the other regions like EU and North America, have 10 weeks of competitive play. That means we have week 9 and then we have week 10 to round out the week. If you look at just how some of the teams have panned out, it's looking kind of bad and good. It can be a combination of both. One would ask, why is Griffin still number 1 in my power rankings other than probably SKT? Now you have to factor in, Griffin have only realistically had one bad week of play where they dropped, games to Gen G and Afrika, pretty much bottom feeders of the LCK. But I don't think that 1 week of bad play should just immediately knock them out of the top seed. That just wouldn't be fair. Also, if you look at the SKT series, yes, SKT did necessarily expose them. SKT still lost at the end of the day, but SKT have been looking absolutely incredible, coming back to that SKT dominant form that we've been so accustomed to seeing after all of these years about being around SKT and looking at how dominant they can be. And then you look at some of the other teams, and it's not necessarily so black and white. So what I mean by that is that their rankings don't necessarily determine how strong they are, probably at the moment. Because if you look at where the top 6 teams are, you're looking at Griffin, SKT, Sandbox, Kingzone, and Damwon. Now, Hanawa Life just still haven't shown to me that they are ready to be LCK, playoff ready. Damwon, with their players of Nuclear, Naguri, Flame, have all been absolutely standout performers, but Damwon have shown a little bit of inconsistency compared to Kingzone and Sandbox. And Joker, their support, has been playing incredible. He's the oldest player in the LCK at the moment. He's been playing better. He had received heavy criticism back in the day, but he has surely cleaned up his play. This guy will not stop going to make the big play. This dude is always trying to get his team going and basically trying to make sure that they are not falling behind, not falling into that, play slow play style that the LCK has been so accustomed to after all this time. Then what you want to go to is Kingzone. Kingzone actually look really good. Now, Kingzone have far and away surpassed my expectations for them coming into this split. They have been playing absolutely better than most people would have predicted coming in. Like, coming into the split, you have a bunch of unproven players, some proven, some who have slacked off in the past couple of splits, and they've proven that they are definitely a top tier team, and proving that just because you lose your star-studded roster, it means that when you do rebuild, it can work. We've seen similar things like that with them in certain teams of the LCK, looking back to Samsung White and Samsung Blue back in the day, when the organization themselves had to rebuild, and then eventually later on that Samsung Galaxy roster won Worlds. So, it's just something about the LCK that sometimes, like, teams will be like super teams for a certain split, and then the next split they have to rebuild. It doesn't look so good. Then they start turning it on, and then they start showing why they were that organization, why this team can be good. Now, the same thing can be said for KT. I don't know what's going on. They're going to be in relegation, most likely, if they don't start picking up some wins toward the, these last few weeks really do matter for them so that they can not be in relegation. But I think that the match scores are going to be equalized if Afrika or Gen G manage to win more of their best of 3 matches as well. So, looking forward to that. Just imagine being a newcomer into the LCK and going like, I have to face BDD, Score, and Smeb. Maybe we should just hightail it and pack it up and try for summer. So, also looking at some of the matches this past week, you have to go and think about Gen G and Afrika. They played, I guess, better. I'm not really too sure about both teams. The reason why I have Gen G above Afrika is because, oh man, there's several reasons why. Not just because Afrika is like super bad, but you look at Gen G's match versus Griffin, which was a 2-0, and yes, Griffin did necessarily disrespect in the draft. You still have to give a lot of credit to Ruler and Gen G for really exposing Griffin during the draft phase like other teams haven't. I think SKT exposed them in a certain way about them, you know, playing kind of slow at certain points and then not really being very proactive at certain points. But Gen G's win over Griffin was more convincing to me than Afrika's win over them. You go back and look at the Afrika series against Griffin. Griffin honestly could have won that series in 3 games, but Gen G's performance was much more better than Afrika's. And you look at Gen Air, they're in their own, you know, tier of like F. So yeah, that's pretty much it for all the power rankings I think will pan out toward the end of week 9. You have Griffin, who is looking like that they can bounce back. Now if we go and look at the actual games, let's look at the actual games. Let me move my screen over for you guys just a little bit, and then let's get this going. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 days of gameplay. All right, so normally I would just do all these 4 days, you know, by themselves, but I think that this will be much more sufficient right now to do these. Just giving my basic predictions. All right, so you have Griffin versus Hanawa Life. That's looking like it can be, you know, very one-sided towards Griffin. If you're Griffin, you want to make sure you're going in this match showing that, okay, that was just a bad week. That doesn't count. Let's just still be the top team, because they can still realistically lose their first place seed and not get auto-seeded to the finals. Because in the LCK, if you get first place, you are auto-seeded into the finals. So I think that Hanawa Life, you're on like life support right now if you want to make playoffs. Like, you really have to start winning something. Something has to click. Something has to go in favor of your draft phase. You have to either cheese or you have to come up with a strategy that can beat Griffin. You got to try something. I think Griffin win the series 2-0. Kingzone versus KT Rolster. Now, last split, last year, this would be a marquee matchup. This would be most likely like the most hype match of the week. If this was last year, this is this year, and it's not. And Kingzone are going to probably most likely win the series 2-1. I do like some of the things KTF put out more recently, but it's just not good enough. You know, all throughout the whole split, they just haven't been coordinated. None of their engages are working because they're all trying to do separate things. Bot lane is just completely disorganized from the top side of the map. And then you have BDD, who's completely disorganized from his own team. It's just not looking good for a lot of the certain things going for KT. So Kingzone will win 2-1. But KT have shown that they can win games. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And that last telecom war, KT did get a win. So, you know, there's some upsides to that, I guess. Gen G versus Afrika. I think that even last year, this would have been a pretty good match. But looking at it this year, these are two of, you know, some of the more bottom feeders of the league. Looking at it right now, you got to just look at who performed better last week in their win against Griffin. That's pretty much all you can go off of. And individual gameplay and, you know, what they did in terms of macro. Ruler straight up 1v9. And Afrika have, you could say, well, they have more players than Ruler because they have more players than Rulers that could obviously do much more on the map. But if Ruler can carry against Griffin, I think he can do that against Afrika. Afrika just really haven't shown much. They switch out players constantly. I do believe Dread is a little bit better than Spirit right now, given the fact that what I've seen out of Spirit in the split just really wasn't anything convincing. I was never on a Spirit hype train about this guy being really good. I don't know what people thought about that. I don't know where people even got that from. He looked very average to mediocre at best on the roster, even when they were winning. I think that Gen G win the series 2-1, moving forward with day 2 predictions. All right, and the second game for day 2, Sandbox versus SKT. Now, this is a battle of the two top teams in the LCK. I think when you look at both teams, you go with which team has obviously been improving much more at a faster rate. You look at how great SKT have been playing, how much the meta has been suiting them, how much they've actually been a cohesive unit toward a lot of things. Faker has been putting on an absolute clinic this past couple of games he's been playing. Sandbox have also looked pretty good too. I do not want to discredit them. Song Yoon been looking really good. You have Joker, who's been playing absolutely incredible. You have their top laner, I forgot his name at the moment, who's been also playing great. So, oh, and you have On Fleek. On Fleek is also just... On Fleek and Clid are two of the best junglers in the LCK. But I think that when you look at the match itself, I think this is going to be very close. And I think I'll give it 2-1 to SKT. And that's for day 2. And now day 3. Jin Air versus KT. Now, if I was going to Korea this week and I was about to say, I'm going to travel and, you know, I'm going to see some LCK. I'm going to see the 3-time world champions, you know, I would go, wow, I paid for a Jin Air versus a KT day. Not going to happen. KT, if they even want to salvage their mental state, I think you have to win this match. Now, it's going to be very convincing. KT beat them very convincing the first time around, so this is a pretty easy match. For the love of anything league-related, KT, please do not lose to Jin Air. Your mental state, if they lose to Jin Air, KT's mental state is going to be absolutely just obliterated. Now, theoretically, Jin Air could come in here, play very, very freely. All Jin Air is good for right now is playing spoiler to the top tier teams to make their lives a lot worse. KT win the series 2-0. Damwon versus Griffin. Damwon have shown that they have something there. You know, you have a bunch of really, really great players that all seem to work together and play really good. I think that Damwon's weakest point is their jungler, but that's not really anything sufficient. But it matters when you're playing up against Tarzan. And I think that playing up against Tarzan, you get punished very, very heavily. Even when they lost against Afrika, Tarzan was still playing really well. Most of the squad was still playing pretty well. I think that, you know, Afrika taking them by surprise, playing the way they did, generally caught them off guard. But let's see how Griffin has bounced back on the patch right now, because they had a bad week, a bad slumping week. They're on a win. Coming into this week, they're on a losing streak. If they can bounce back from their losing streak against Hanawa Life, I think they can beat Damwon. But I wouldn't be surprised if Damwon actually beats Griffin. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Griffin win this series 2-1. I think Damwon can take a game off Griffin. And the day 4 predictions: Hanawa Life versus Sandbox, and Afrika versus Kingzone. Now, Hanawa Life, as I said before, look like they can be playoff material, but they're kind of like just what Splice are in the EULCS, just a guard team. You know, Bono, Tempt, Thal, they're all really decent players, and I think Thal is their best player. And you have a pretty competent bot lane, but it's just not enough at top level teams like Sandbox. And I think Sandbox just easily take this series 2-0. Alright, and Afrika versus Kingzone, which is the last match and of the last day of day 4. Kingzone versus Afrika. Kingzone should have a field day here. If Afrika win this, then I don't know what life has showed me, but I know that it's not good. But as for Kingzone, you want to make sure you're winning these last few matches, because even though Kingzone are in this top 4, you want to make sure you're still winning, so that way you can obviously have that better seed going into playoffs. So that's it. That is it. That is my LCK Week 9 power rankings, day 1 through day 4 predictions. This is how I think the standings will pan out moving after that. After all the days have been settled, it looks like that a lot of the LCK action is heating up. This looks like to be your 5 playoff teams. I don't think anybody else is really getting there, and I really do hope KT don't have to go to relegations. That would be sad. You know, coming off of winning 2018 summer, going to Worlds, having an amazing series versus Invictus Gaming, you know, losing 1 game in their group stage, you know, being this really storied organization in Korea, to going to relegations would be honestly just a big disappointment. And they already are a big disappointment for the split. Most people had them pegged as a top 3, top 4 team. So it's been a hell of a ride for them, but let's hope that they can bounce back for the rest of the split. See you guys later. I'm the Nightwing signing out. Like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. Peace and out.